Hi, and welcome to the next edition of the Check-In Podcast, where we're talking to community leaders, builders, all about mental health and workplace well-being. This morning, I am lucky enough to have Ms. Nisa Karan in-house today. Or I should say in-house on screen. Nisa, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And Nisa, maybe tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am the CEO of Cobra Safety, founder, CEO of Cobra Safety, also function as the principal. We are an occupational health and safety consulting firm, national consulting firm, where we get the privilege of working with organizations to build programs and interventions that really support their employees, prevent workplace accidents, enhance their well-being, psychological health and safety, and all sorts of other required things under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And I'm a hike leader. I'm a hiker outside of my professional life. I have a hiking group called GTA Girls Hike Club, and we're 171 women strong. And I'm a big believer in mental health. I have my own experiences with tough times and ways that I've gotten out of it. So you'll notice in anything and everything I talk about or write about, I try to incorporate some mental health and some resiliency into that. But that's pretty much me, I think, in a nutshell.
Nice. So, first question out of the chute is, what does well-being at work mean to you personally?
Well-being at work, to me personally, it means, and this could be controversial, but arriving whole. And I say arriving whole because a lot of times when we look at the workplace, we separate it from a human being's personal life. And I don't think that it's fair to separate the two, because what happens at home, you carry with you into the workplace. You can't just turn it off and go to work. There are things, there are feelings, there are thoughts, there are memories, there are all sorts of things that you bring with you into the workplace. For me, well-being at work, not just for me, but for my staff, my teams, are recognizing that a person is a whole. They're not just an employee. They have other facets of their life that could be contributing to what they're bringing to the workplace. And so recognizing that really helps me, one, to be a better leader, a more empathetic leader, and also to enable my employees, my peers, my staff members to perform at their best. And when I mean at their best, I'm not talking about a rubric that I've developed, because the best changes based on how people are feeling every day. And so recognizing that, okay, you know what, this person is going through this today. Their best at, what we may think 100%, their best at 50% is still their best. And so recognizing and being comfortable that they're doing their best, and for somebody to come and show up every day and showing up whole in whatever way they can, that's what wellness means to me in the workplace.
And and also what happens at work, we bring home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then it becomes like this cyclical effect.
Yeah,
right?
it is. Yeah. We have phones now, we have computers, the emails don't stop coming in, and we operate in a way where technology has helped us, but it's also, and the work from home thing, there's sometimes difficulties in separating where your workplace is versus where your home is. And so recognizing that they're kind of all bleeding in together now. And so we really need to change the perspective of what an employee looks like and what wellness is.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, like, now we have those hybrid roles, or the work from home roles, where it's literally in the same room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, can you share something that your organization does, big or small, that helps support the mental well-being in the workplace?
Yeah. So our company doesn't have fixed work hours. So the reason I do that is I have my own fixed work hours, because that's how I function. I function better with structure. But my team, our staff, people who work with us, they know that I don't expect a 9 to 5 clock in. That's not what it is. I realize people have lives, they have children, they have aging parents, they have their own, personal priorities that they need to focus on. And so once they know that, they have XYZ project to work on, off they go as long as the project is done. We have our regular check-in points, which are no longer than 30 minutes a week. And other than that, they can work at 12 a.m. at night if they want to. They can fix their hours to 9 to 5, but it works well because they produce their best work, because when they work on it, they're feeling their best. They're ready to get into the work. They're not starting at 9 a.m. when I want them to work, when they could probably have had the most rough morning their child woke up sick, or they're dealing with an aging parent, for example. And this is a very real reality that we're all facing. So I think that, and it was almost unintentional because I function that way. So I was like, I don't care. I don't need you to check in at 9 a.m. and tell me you're off work at 5. And everybody works from home. So I don't expect anybody to come into the office. And so that's worked pretty well. And there's a lot of people who have been a lot happier and really loyal to the organization because of that.
I love that word, loyal to the organization.
Yeah.
Because it is possible.
Yeah.
It is possible.
It is. Yeah. And they say like people don't leave because of, wages. Obviously things are difficult now, so we have to make decisions based on wages often. But people usually leave when they're not, respected or recognized in the workplace. And recognition is not just about rewarding you for, hey, I know you met this KPI internally, but it's also recognizing that you're human and you're having a human experience outside of here. And so, I mean, I'm kind of guilty for this, but sometimes I have to check myself because I get a little too involved and the nurse comes out. But at the same time, it's like, I would do this anywhere else. So I care about the people that work with me. I care about the people that believe in this organization, believe in me, believe in what they're doing. So it's not going to hurt me or them to ask that extra question, even if that means they have to share a little bit more. And of course, it's at the comfort of themselves, but we've already built the trust to the point where sometimes they just divulge to me anyways. And that gives me so much insight into what they're dealing with, because then I can, act accordingly in terms of deadlines, in terms of timelines, in terms of pressure, in terms of getting them resources if they need to in those periods, because they need that extra helping hand, because they're going to be, in and out of a hospital dealing with someone. I had a leader like that too, actually, in my previous organization. And the first thing, if I would ever tell her, is don't worry about it. I got it. You go deal with whatever you got to deal with. And that really stuck with me. And I was like, you know what, that's a trait that I want to take with me and carry forward with my team and my peers. So yeah.
But what's one challenge that you're faced with when you're comes to supporting a team's well-being or a person's well-being at work?
Some of the challenges is, I think, because stigma is such a big piece of well-being and mental health, and people think that I'm this crazy high performer that's extremely stoic, and I'm like, a robot, and I get that all the time. And which is why I wanted to change the way that I come off even online, because I'm giving a unrealistic perception of me. I'm not stoic. I mean, I'm pretty stoic, but I'm not. I do have emotions. I do understand that like things get in the way. I've experienced tremendous grief myself not too long ago. And if it weren't for the people that understood what I was going through, I don't think I would really be able to accomplish and do the things that I was able to accomplish. As much as it seems like online, all I do is work all day long. And I always start any conversation with that, because that is what people think, like I'm, some kind of a workhorse, and I'm not. I really believe in the opposite. I believe that if you pour into yourself first and you focus on your wellness, and everything else, including your productivity, increases, not the other way around. And so when I shifted that mindset, that really helped me show up authentically. And so the challenge then becomes, because my staff may think that I'm like this, that they need to perform at my level. And so being authentic was very important, to say, look, there are days where I wake up and I'm like, I don't feel like working today, because I'd rather just stay in my bed because I feel a little blue and I can't explain it.
Yeah.
And that's a real feeling. And so again, it's building trust. So it's being able to build that trust, and then having them be able to reciprocity, really, like share back, allows me to break that barrier. So I would say that's some of the challenges, but I wouldn't really call it a challenge. It's my role as their leader to build that trust with them.
Yeah, I know personally too. 2025 was for me a year of grief. Losing my dad, and then our family cat, our family dog.
Yeah.
And then my uncle. Towards the end of the year, and it was just like, no one teaches us how to grieve.
Yeah.
And we don't. It's not something that we go initially, innately we go and look for I need a grief coach or something, or I
Yeah,
need,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
I know for me, had I not have learned what I've learned over the last few years, I don't know where I'd be, like mentally right now.
right.
And I give kudos. I tell the story often where there was one morning I woke up, and this was about a few months after my dad had passed, and you're just heavy in the chest, and I'm sitting on the couch by myself, and getting ready for the day, and just have this weight, and I started crying, and the first thing my first instinct was like to kind of hold it back, and then I'm like, nope. So I just dumped it in that
Yeah,
moment, right?
yeah,
And oh my goodness, it left my system, so to speak.
yeah,
Went and got my coffee, and I ended up having a really good day.
yeah,
And so I tell my wife, I'm like, man, you girls have had it right for a while when you say I just need a good cry.
yeah, for
You know?
sure. And there's a book that's I read, and I always tell a lot of people to read it, but it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And a lot of times we internalize things and it comes out in ways where we least expect it.
Hmm.
And when it comes out when you least expect it, it's like it's almost hard to do your root cause as to why am I behaving this way in this instant. But it's not a, the the human body is not an A plus B equals C. Like it's very resilient and it really holds and carries all of these things because as humans we're always trying to survive, for a lack of a better word. So it does everything it needs to do to make sure that you can go through whatever you need to go through and stay alive.
Yeah.
But without addressing it, we then internalize these things and then it comes out in other ways that we sometimes don't realize that this is the reason why, I had, for example, a panic attack. Or for me, I get stress related alopecia. So I know when my hair starts falling out, I seem as happy and stoic as possible, but my body will tell me that, like, something's not right. You need to chill out. You need to make a change or something of that sort. And so that book really describes, like, even from an epigenetics perspective, like we carry a lot of trauma in our DNA. So even if there's nothing that specifically happened to us, there's still some of that we might be experiencing that goes unexplained.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so recognizing and understanding that, I think, really empowers people to start talking about it
Yeah.
and talking and leaning into other people, because nobody is alone. There's so many people experiencing it. There's, if not everybody at some point in their life, even if it's for a short bout of time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just had to reach up and
Oh, you have it. See, it's a great book, isn't it?
it's in my library.
Yeah, yeah.
Nisa, I know you talked about hiking. Is there anything else that you personally do to recharge the batteries?
Yeah, I sleep. I nap. I'm an avid napper. So if I feel like, okay, I'm go, 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 I could use a quick little nap right now, I'll nap. I read. So I used to read a lot of nonfiction books, and don't quote me on this, but it was a study that I read at some point. But sometimes those nonfiction self-help books derail you even more. Especially when you start to hyper read those books. So I can guarantee you I've read every book that's like popular on the internet right now in terms of self-help books. And because you get so much advice fatigue almost, where you're like, I have 5,000 habits that I need to incorporate based on these 5 books. How am I going to do that? And then that becomes overwhelming. And then you beat yourself up over that. And when you can't follow through with it, that then, takes a bit out of your self-esteem. And it's this vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came across this YouTube video and they were talking about fiction novels. And I wasn't really into fiction novels. I couldn't get myself immersed in something that was not real. And then I gave it a shot and I read a fiction novel and I couldn't put it down. And it was so immersive. It was an escape. And I know escapism is controversial, but this is literary. At least you're learning new words or some sort of something. But it really allowed me to take a break from my reality and immerse myself into another world, really. And this YouTube video also described, like, when you read fiction novels, you learn empathy more because you're kind of reading in a character's perspective. You start experiencing emotions that are not yours. So
Mm-hmm.
you start to really manifest empathy in an emotional kind of a way. But then when you put it down, it's over. Like, it's not your life. You felt the feelings, you envisioned it in your head. And so that brings you back to a little bit of a human sense, because empathy is quite significant, especially when you're speaking from a leadership perspective. Empathy goes a long way when you're trying to embed mental health and well-being into your staff members. I spend a lot of time, we chatted a little bit about forest bathing. I'm a big proponent of Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing, grounding, bare feet in the forest. Meditation is something that I'm not gonna act like I'm an expert. I can't do any more than 10 minutes, but it's the 10 minutes goes a very long way. Just to kind of to detach yourself from the stressors of real life. And it takes time. So it's also being realistic about, like, you're not going to get it in the first 10 tries, but eventually the compound of your efforts is going to pay off, because you're able to really calm your mind. And then you'll notice those techniques bleed into other areas, like in real stressful situations, then you can really control your emotions and be able to be calm in those scenarios. And I go to the gym. I'm a very regular gym goer. And if you read that book, The Body Keeps the Score, your body releases stress physically as well, through sweat, through tears. And so I believe in sweat therapy. Movement is medicine. So I'm always at the gym.
Yeah.
And a big thing that changed for me there is, as soon as I detached from like fitness body goals to focusing on mental health and alignment, this is a horrible word to use, but the addiction to the gym just kind of came naturally. And so it was a very useful and healthy outlet to be able to balance myself, especially if I'm having a heavy day or, a stressful type of a day. But those are just some of the things I do.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's great. I'm tired. One of the gentlemen that's part of our holistic education crew, Greg, he said something, and it'll stick with me through the rest of my life. And that's, when we were younger, especially in elementary school per se,
Yeah.
Your teacher said, "Hey, pay attention." And to me, I got that almost on a daily basis. And he says, no one taught us how to pay attention.
Yeah.
Right. And then through meditation and so forth, you really start to learn how to kind of zero in on
Yes. Yeah.
the subject matter, what's in front of you. So
Yeah.
it's got that ripple effect.
It does. It goes a very long way in all parts of your life.
So what advice would you give to other leaders who want to create healthy workplace cultures?
I think a piece of advice that I would give other leaders, and I know this is a challenge for a lot of people, and I recognize that I'm very privileged and lucky that I have a nursing background. So having crucial conversations, it's a little bit easier for me because I'm trained.
Mm-hmm.
But a piece of advice that I can give leaders is, you don't need to be trained to have those conversations. You just need to be empathetic and sensitive. You don't need to give them advice or treatment advice. Sometimes just a listening ear goes a long way. They just want to be heard, especially by their boss. It's really, really impactful. Like, you don't need to, you hear this very often in a lot of mental health conversations, is sometimes people just want you to listen. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people fear those conversations, or they don't think they're equipped for it. And of course, you don't want to get to a point where you're derailing the person entirely and it becomes this whole high risk situation. You don't want to do that. But sometimes all they need is, hey, I see you. I see you're going through something. If you're comfortable, let's sit down. I'm here. I'm all ears. And you just need to listen. And there's resources that are available online everywhere about trauma-informed approaches and how to have those conversations and incorporating the person in the decision-making. And, you don't need to have a license to have a general, gentle conversation. That's just being human. And obviously recognizing that when it gets to a point where it's out of your scope, then at least being equipped with resources. So if somebody comes to you and says, I've thought about suicide. Well, if you're not equipped to have that conversation, you shouldn't be talking about that, but at least go in prepared to say, okay, I would love for, and I've done this before where I myself were like, what, I think this is now getting out of my scope, but you have the employee family and assistance program or whatever resources that you've collated beforehand. can I get you on the phone? I'm not going to be here, but I really would like you to speak to somebody. Can I get you on the phone? I'm giving you a private room, and I want you to have a conversation because I'm very concerned and I really care about you. And I've made people call in those moments. So if I can just say that in one sentence, it's just don't be afraid. If I can give that advice to leaders, don't be afraid to have a conversation. You don't need to become a clinical psychologist overnight. Just be human, have a human conversation.
Yeah, I love that. When the day comes, if the day comes that you choose to retire and hike full time, how would you like to be remembered as a leader?
I want to be remembered for, so I really live by you rise by lifting others. I say that anywhere and everywhere I could possibly say it. And if I left my team, my organization, my interaction with somebody feeling more empowered than they did before speaking to me, then I did my job. And for me, if my people can outspeak and outdo me, then I did my job. So if I can see all of these people exceed above and beyond me, then that's the legacy that I want to leave in terms of my professional life is, you know, I was able to shatter glass ceilings because Nisa made me feel safe to do that. That's what I want to be remembered as.
Beautiful. And bonus question is, what gives you hope for the future of workplace well-being?
I think that what really gives me hope is how many advocates are coming forward, like yourself, and people who are really recognizing it, who are breaking through the stigma, who are really, 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 you know, going out of their way to make a change, right? Like yourself, creating a not-for-profit, organizations or leaders that are recognizing that this is a huge piece of employee well-being. You know, people that are realizing that laws need to change to support this, people who are advocating for this, union partners that are really pushing the agenda forward to make a difference. Like that gives me hope. All of these people who are recognizing that this is a big deal. And like physical hazards, of course, that's in our space, at least in occupational health and safety, physical hazards is always an issue and hazards are going to exist that could harm people. But recognizing now that psychosocial, psychological health and safety, workplace violence, you know, peer-to-peer issues, harassment, all that kind of stuff being recognized makes me hopeful for the future because it starts with awareness and then comes momentum and then comes change. And so I really look forward to seeing that change and being a part of it. So that makes me feel hopeful.
Awesome. Nisa, thank you so much for joining us. You're obviously a wealth of information and knowledge. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.